Hi guys, how are you? So good morning, my lovelies. Today is another Evil Lives Here episode. So, I'm excited. Are you excited? I'm trying to get back into it. I promise I am. So, I hope, there was something all over that everyone is doing well. We are in 2024. Can you believe that? I mean, seriously, I can't believe it. And nobody told me that 2024 was going to be absolutely crazy so far. I mean, I was not prepared. It's okay. I have been extremely busy. I've been crazy, just everything. But that's okay. Why? Because I'd rather be busy than not. Whether it be my work, whether it be my family, my home, my kids, whatever. I would so much rather be busy than doing nothing in this. So, that's how it is. But, we're here for a new episode. And I originally wanted to do this episode before the new year. So, I had actually planned it, watched it. I'm eating hair today. And all that really good stuff before the new year. And I'm just now getting ready to, or getting able to, sit down and discuss it with you. So, yeah, that is just where I am. And I apologize. But, hey, we are here, right? We are here. So, let's do a little introduction. Hello. My name is Erin. This is Ageless Beauty with Erin. And today's episode is Evil Lives Here. So, I do have like a couple different, what are they called? Okay, I have a couple different like channel things that I do, and the word is right there, playlist. And one of them, obviously, is the makeup. The other one is Evil Lives Here, which is what we're doing now. And then I have another one I haven't gotten back into. It is a cult series. I'm not sure yet where I stand on the cult. So, anyways, this one is Evil Lives Here. And to explain what I do for this series, I simply watch the episode. And then I come in here and I talk about the episode I watched while doing my makeup. See? So simple. So simple. But you might ask, and I've been asked, why are you doing makeup while you're talking about this episode? Well, let's just say, this is a beauty page. This is I do makeup looks. I do new makeup reviews. I do all kinds of things. If you've been following me, you know. And if you haven't been following me, check them out. Come on, help a girl out here. But I also like to watch and listen to true crime. I'm getting back into it more and more. Again, just a big long explanation and story why I kind of got out of it, but I won't get into that. But I like to sit down and talk to you. And when I do that, I like to do it doing something. Just sitting here like this can get boring. So we're going to do some makeup, okay? I just combine the two things that I like because I love makeup and I enjoy the true crime. So simple, it is what it is. However, for these videos, since I'm not talking about makeup, I will not discuss what I'm using. As always, it will be listed down below in the comments. And if you have any questions or thoughts or anything about it, let me know. I'll be glad to answer. But everything I'm using is going to be down there. And when I do these videos, I do what I call a makeup roulette. And I have a couple of videos like this. So if you're not completely sure what it is, go check them out. But I have an app and it pretty much just blind selects a bunch of stuff for me. So I really don't know what I'm doing when I sit down here, and it could be great, it could be a mess, it could be what it is. So that's what we're going to do, okay? I've got my roulette done, I already know what I'm using. They're already set here. So we'll get to this episode. Now, the episode is from season 3, episode 7, titled Soap The Soap Star's Secret. Okay. It was originally aired in 2018. And I'm watching this episode plus all the other episodes for Evil Lives Here on Discovery Plus. It is a paid for subscription, but the couple dollars a month I pay is very worth it. So no complaints. Now when I got into this, this one guy, he looked so familiar to me. I mean, he really did. I don't know why he looked familiar to me, because I don't watch the soap opera, or I've never watched the soap opera that he was on. But just he was very familiar to me. His name did nothing for me. Like, I had no idea who he was by his name alone. It was just his looks. And he could be one of those that, in that time frame, they all look the same. I've got primer everywhere. But it's okay. So, is what it is. But we're going to start with the guy talking. We learn is the brother of the main, I guess, protagonist. The evil in the story, if you will. And his name is Tom Beards. And the story is about his brother, Troy. Now, I do want to just say, if you see me looking over to the side, I do have my notes here. The older I get, my memory is not that great. So please forgive me for looking to the side for my notes. Okay, so we learned that Troy, who at the time in 2018 was currently serving a life sentence for what he did on July 14th, 1989. So, of course, we don't know yet what he did. We just know his name, and he's in prison for life. Okay, and a date. We do have a date. Sometimes we don't even have dates, but we have dates. So anyways, we don't know what he's did. That's why Tom's here. He is going to tell us what his brother did and give us the story in his words. So that's pretty much the host. If you've never watched one of my episodes, or if you're not familiar with Evil Lives Here, that's pretty much what it is. They bring somebody in from a family, friend, somebody that was associated to the crime, and they tell the story in their point of view. At the end, I will typically do a little bit of a research to try to find out what was missed, some questions that I have, and there's usually a discrepancy here and there, sometimes not much. This one didn't have as much. I was really kind of shocked. But some of them are big, so it just depends. But we'll get to that. It's okay. Calm down. So, okay, so Tom is going to tell us this story. And one of the things about this series that I do really, really like is that they actually add video clips, newscast reports, things like that really kind of make the story real. Like, you get to see the person, you get to see how they were acting or behaving during that time period. If there was a cop's chase or something going on, it's just a whole, you get to see that, and it's nice. So yeah, we're going to get to see a video right now. I'm not going to show it to you. So I got to see a video when I watched it. And it was Tom with his brother Troy. And I tell you, this one confused me. And I will go back and circle back to that. But just remember this, me talking about this. Because in this video, it looks like Tom is supporting Troy. And Troy is saying that he doesn't think he committed the crime. That if he had committed this crime, he would have made a point to try to get away with it. And Tom is supporting being the, supportive big brother. I will circle back to this because this whole thing don't make sense to me. The whole thing. But just remember. Okay, so, it cuts back to Tom telling the story how hard it was to understand what and why Troy did what he did. I get that. A lot of us cannot understand why certain people do things that they do and, things like that. So I get that. And he's like, he's not sure what he missed, how he missed it. And he said a lot of people question him. How did you not see this? How did you not know your brother had this in him? And Tom says something and he makes a really good point. He's like, it would be great if we can look at somebody and see, that they are killers or psychopaths. That we can see what's in their head and know that could happen. Now, in a way, I do agree with that. But it would be a scary thing to have. So, that would be a terrifying ability. I don't think I'd want it. So, y'all, you can have it. It's yours. But Tom said they simply didn't see anything for Troy. I will question this again later on. I try to keep my personal opinions out of this, or out of these stories when I do it. But this one had me going probably a little more than usual. So I will question that. But he said, Troy. Troy went to many doctors. And all the doctors kept telling him that he was faking it. So if the doctors didn't see it, how are they supposed to see it? And I guess in this point, I can understand that. If you're taking them to a professional and they're not seeing anything, and I'll explain all that here too as we go. But if the doctors aren't seeing it, I don't know if I would. Again, I will question all this as we go. So Tom starts talking about his family. And he calls them average. It's like, mom and dad and 3 kids. But mom and dad did not have a great relationship. Yeah. And apparently they constantly separated and got back together. It was kind of a thing for them. So mom thought at this time too that maybe having another baby will help fix the problem. I don't have to tell you how much that drives me crazy. However, I will say that's where Troy comes in. So Troy turns out to be their miracle baby because they had told his mom that she would never be able to get pregnant. She shouldn't get pregnant. And lo and behold, she got pregnant and there's Troy. Okay. So now it's mom and dad, 4 kids. But it didn't last. Obviously, they eventually divorced for good, and Mama became a single parent. She was pretty much the only one around. And I'm going to say, I question that. Where was Dad? I will talk about that again. I'm kind of skipping ahead some of this, and I shouldn't because it's out of order. But I did question where Dad was. I never found out. I hate when I can't find out something that should have been a very simple, where the hell was the man in the family, and why was he not supporting his kids? Anyways, so back to the story. Tom talks about Troy as being a hyper child and very destructive. Said he had a lot of energy that he didn't know what to do with. Mom took him to the doctor numerous times for that energy because he was so hyper and he was having temper tantrums. So Mom was trying to get him help. Doctor said there was nothing wrong with Troy. He just needed attention. So they gave him attention. Tom said it made sense. Sure, we'll give him attention. He's the baby in the family. We'll just keep giving him all the attention that his little heart needs. I'm not a doctor. I'm not even going to try to diagnose anything. I'm just going to say he was the miracle child. Okay, so he was already given a lot of attention because he was the baby in the family. Like there was, I don't know the whole age difference from everybody, but there was quite a bit of difference in age in these kids. So he was getting attention. And he was throwing temper tantrums, and the doctor tells him to give him more attention. Now, right, wrong, or indifferent, wouldn't that lead someone to think that he's just going to keep acting out because he wants more attention? I mean, that's just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. It doesn't mean much. But, yeah, I'm not sure I think throwing more attention to a kid that's having these temper tantrums is actually going to help. So, okay, where am I at? However, as I said, Tom said it made sense, so that's what they did. And surprisingly enough, it never got better. And as Troy got older, and it doesn't say how old he was when this happened, he started having violent fantasies. For example, he's supposed to write an essay for class, right? I don't know what class it was, English, whatever. Because I don't know if he was, how old he was. Because at one point when we pick up, we know he's 16. So this had to happen somewhere before 16, which is kind of scary. But he wrote an essay that was titled, and I quote, "To assassinate the President of the United States," end quote. Everybody thought, and I guess the teachers did too, that this was stupid, wasn't serious, wasn't anything they needed to take seriously. And, you know, they just dismissed it. Okay. And, when I read that and how they dismissed it, I'm like, good Lord, he tried that this day and age. Okay. So then Tom tells us that at some point, his mom found a diary Tom was keeping. Or Troy, I'm sorry. Mom found a diary Troy was keeping. And it was a diary full, and it was got, thoughts, things like that, and poetry that he was writing. I'm not going to read you a poetry. I won't. But like one of the stories or poems he wrote was titled Satan. And he wrote a lot of stories of this nature. Tom shows us a picture of Troy and says, he looks normal. I know, come on. And I'm thinking, is he supposed to have horns, a tail? How do you know by looking at somebody? You don't. You take the warning signs and you listen to them. But Tom said, he looked normal. He looked, okay. How are we supposed to know that he actually meant the stuff that he was writing and that he was being serious and that there was potentially a killer inside? Well, okay. Tom talks about being in school and how when he was in school, he was a loner. And then when he found out Troy was, he thought, it's just, he's shy, no big deal. He's just a shy kid, a little loner. Tom was a loner, so, whatever. He didn't take anything serious about Troy being a loner. However, what they didn't know is that Troy wasn't necessarily just a loner. He was an observer. And he was sitting in class and he was observing his classmates and torturing insects. So, like he would sit in class and he'd have a fly that he had caught and he'd be plucking off wings and legs to torture said insect. And I don't know how they found this, but Troy kept a list of, I guess it was his pre-murder list. It was just insects and animals, that a list that he had of every insect and animal that he had killed. And how many. Like, if he killed a fly, he knew how he killed that. I mean, how many of those flies he killed. And he wrote down how he killed those flies. So, I mean, okay, old dude is a little meticulous. It's a little creepy. It's a little scary to know that somebody like that could be in class with you. But hey. And, you know, Tom takes the time. Gee, nice of him. But Tom takes the time to start reading a little bit off that list of things that Troy killed. Again, I am not going to go into detail regarding this, but there's a list. And we got a little taste and sample of it. So Tom's like, I just don't understand what he gets out of torturing these creatures. I mean, okay. Most of us wouldn't understand. And thank God, most of us don't understand. I'd hate to think that those of us that can't understand torture would be in the minority, but scary thought. We could be. I don't know. But, you know, he says, I just think maybe he thought, you know, it was a power thing. It was control over life and death, even if it's over a fly or, you know, a poor animal. I mean, yes, and I am more upset about the animals than I am a fly, but that's beside the point. These are very telling things that he is torturing and killing anything, right? But I don't know. That's just my opinion. To me, it's kind of a tell. So he says that Tom says he didn't understand, but it had to be a power thing, and nobody knew about it. So none of them had a clue except for Mom, who, when she found the diary, you know, the diary I mentioned before where he talks about Satan and all that kind of stuff, she never told anybody. Now, I don't know, and it kind of just thinking about it right here, if that diary she found had his kill list, maybe. But either way, Mom knew that Troy had some serious issues and did not, I don't know if she was trying to protect him or she was just in denial. I really don't know. I just know she never told anybody, and it was a terrible secret to keep. And it would be a terrible secret to keep. I'm not even going to say it wasn't. But, yeah. So nobody knew that he was having these fantasies because she hadn't told anybody. But Mom knew there was a problem. She knew that Troy needed a positive outlet for his energy. I guess that's a way to say it. And she decided to try to find something to get him involved in. So she put him in karate. She thought that karate would be a good way for him to learn how to channel this energy in a disciplined way. Honestly, I can't say I don't agree with her. I do. I think karate can help many, 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 many people in reasons and things. And for that very reason, learn how to channel anger and anxiety or whatever a child is going through that might need a little bit of channeling. Not just a child, anybody. So I honestly can't say I disagree. I don't know. I mean, each child's different. I wasn't there with Troy, thank God. Heck, he probably is close to my age. If I was to sit here and try to do the math, and I don't really know how old he is, but I think he was 16 at the next point that I actually have of progress. And we're 18. Well, hold on. No, he's older than me. Because in 1989 is when he murdered. And I do know he was like 19. In 1989, I was 14. So he's 5 years older than me. Okay. I don't know why that made a difference. To me, it did. But getting back to karate, I don't know. I can't say I would have done the same. I can't say I wouldn't have, because I have a lot of respect for karate and what it can do. But in this case, it did not help. It actually made his rage worse. And I wondered how. Was it just because he knew now how to express his anger? I mean, I don't know. But it says it made it worse. And I'm not going to say it didn't, because here we are. So now the kids are growing older. Again, I don't really have a clear timeline on how old they are until I know how old he was at the point, and a couple of things that happened. But as they're growing older, Mom gets a boyfriend. Okay? And, oh, wait a minute. How did I skip this? Let's skip back. So the karate wasn't helping. It was making his rage worse. But Mama was still determined to do whatever she can for him. Remember, he's her miracle baby. And in a burst of genius, she buys him a motorbike. Yeah, she gets it in her head she's going to buy this motorbike for him. But anytime he gets in trouble, she takes it away from him. So, I mean, in a way, I guess it was, if you're good, you can ride it. If you're not, I'm taking it from you, right? And they fought about this all the time, because when he was in trouble, she would take it from him and he wouldn't be able to ride it. And, of course, pisses him off because he thinks he can do whatever he wants. Well, now, as they're getting older and he has his motorbike, there is a boyfriend in the picture. Do not know anything else other than there is a boyfriend in the picture. And during one of these fights with Troy and the mom about said motorbike, the boyfriend tells Troy that he needs to listen to his mother. Okay? I don't know if it was more than that. I know Tom says, the boyfriend just stepped in and said, "Hey, Troy, you need to listen to your mom." And in which case, Troy completely loses his shit and beats the living hell out of said boyfriend. Okay. Wow. It escalated. And I don't know if it had been coming on and they hadn't just told us that there was a, actual physical contact going on, or if this was the first time. However, Mama wanted to teach him a lesson. So she called the cops and had him arrested. He was charged with battery. Okay, great. But Mom said what bothered her the most was that he actually had no remorse for what happened. Now, could be coincidence. Probably is not. A boyfriend was never mentioned again, so I have no idea if said boyfriend stayed in the picture or not. But that is the only story with a boyfriend mentioned. I do not like these lashes. I don't know why I thought I would, or if I used to, and now I'm so used to something else. I don't know, but I don't like them. Okay. I need them to stick. Like them or not, they're on. I need it to stay. Okay. So, Tom says, in hindsight, Troy was a big problem. But at the time, they thought he just needed more attention. So they just kept giving him more attention. So now, I can tell you, my story says when Tom was 18. So, he's 8 years older than Troy. So the timeline has to be all over the place. And I don't understand that. But that's where I'm at. When Tom was 18, he moved out of the house, got a job with the goal of saving money to move to Hollywood. And he wanted to become a movie star. Okay? So from the time he was 19 to 21, he worked, lived on his own, saved everything he could, and when he got $5,000, he moved to Hollywood and started working in commercials. So his first job was commercials, which probably is how I thought this guy looked familiar. It's the only thing that makes sense. But, okay, so he's in Hollywood now. He's 21, doing commercials. Okay, so he's moved away from the family home. And for him, life was pretty good. Yep. So he says, you know, his life was going great. And every time he talked to his mom, which he talked to her often from what I can understand, she never told him the problems that Troy was having. And his problems were just getting worse. He was being suspended from school now. Timing, this doesn't make sense to me. So he's been, okay, it's just the whole timeline, but I'm going to repeat it like they did. He's participating in gang and racial related fights, and none of this was told to Tom. And I don't know where the other brother and sister, where the other siblings were, right? Don't know if they were older than Tom. Don't know if they were younger than Tom. And I wonder if they were older because Tom is 8 years older than Troy. And, you know, it seemed like they actually had a pretty good relationship at one time. So maybe he was the baby in the family until Troy. And instead of resentment that could happen when a new baby is brought into the family, they were close for some period of time. I don't know. It never says. So, anyways, he is unaware of what's going on. And it wasn't until he came home for Troy's 16th birthday that he realized that Troy was not the same kid he was when he lived at home. Again, not much of a surprise there. But, anyways. So, yeah, Tom went home for Troy's 16th birthday and realized that there was a problem. So, apparently family and friends were over at the house, and Tom wouldn't leave his room. Didn't want anything to do with it. Didn't want cake, didn't want to eat with them, didn't want to socialize, whatever. Tom said he went into the bedroom to visit with him because he wanted to see him before he had to leave, and Tom didn't want anything to do with him. So he said, I just thought it was best I left. I left him alone. And he headed back to LA shortly after because he had a scheduled audition for that. Or that he had already had scheduled that he needed to get back for. So when he got back to LA, that was when he auditioned for The Young and the Restless. And when he got his first major break. So, Tom was 24 at this time when his brother was 16. Okay. Tom says, when he got into The Young and the Restless, his character, which he mentioned, I honestly don't know who it is. I should have wrote it down. But it had less to do with the story. It's just than anything. So, but he was saying his character received a lot of fan mail. He received fan mail all the time. And he would read it and he would answer it. Which, back in that day, they did. And it became something that they quickly quit doing after the stalker killing of that, what was her name, Rebecca maybe? Something from My Sister Sam. Because that was one of the things they said, that she actually answered the letters from the person that turned out to be her stalker and killer. So back in the early 80s, answering fan mail was pretty common. And he said that he always read his letters, always wrote back, but he started receiving letters from Troy. And it was a detailed drawing, and he showed it to us. So, actually saw this letter, this drawing, I should say. And Tom says, and I quote, "I guess this is how he planned to kill me," end quote. I'm surprised how often in this episode, when we were hearing about Troy's behaviors, his writings, his drawings, and whatever, that everybody kept writing it off as not a big deal. Because that's what Tom does in this instance with this letter from his brother showing him how he was going to die. They never considered Troy a real threat. And I'm just... and forgive me. I mean no harm. I really don't. I don't understand it. I just don't get it. That's okay. Okay, back to the story. Tom actually says that he thought this was just another cry for attention from Troy and never considered it a real threat. And shocker, they find out later, wait a minute, this was a real threat. This was serious. And maybe they should have paid attention. Tom says one day Mom called and Troy had taken her car keys, stole her car, and was on his way to Hollywood to get Tom. And she was very concerned and very worried. Remember, she had knowledge that nobody else did, that she was not sharing. Mom kept telling him, don't be at that house when Troy shows up. Go somewhere else. He had made it clear he was coming after Tom. But Tom had no idea that the threats that he had been received from Troy were real. So, and at this point, when he says threats, makes you think there's more than just one initial drawing. Okay, so Tom was only Troy. Troy was only 16 when all this happened and a very inexperienced driver. And I guess you could say, thankfully, he didn't make it very far in his escapades to go get his brother. And made it to Illinois before wrecking his car. And Mom in her head, okay, so Mom, in trying to stop Troy from going to Tom, had put out a, stolen car. So she claimed her car was stolen and it, hoping to stop him. Can't say I disagree with that. So anyways, when he wrecked the car and then he was fingerprinted, or wait a minute, was he fingerprinted? What? It doesn't say at this point. But he was arrested and spent 9 months in a juvenile detention. Okay? Tom said he visited Troy at the center because it was a juvenile detention center, and they could visit. And He said Troy was not the same person. I'm sorry. I'm trying to wrap my head around all this. I really am. Because what I'm getting ready to say next just... Anyways. So, he was seen by lots of doctors. And they all said that Troy was faking the psychosis or whatever. And all he needed was discipline and some structure. So they truly missed an opportunity to help this kid. Anyways, I won't. So Tom had this brilliant idea. Insert lots of sarcasm. But he thought, once Troy got out of juvie, and since he was doing so well while in juvie, Tom would just move him to Hollywood with him. Heck, why not? Mom apparently hadn't told Tom the whole truth. Tom knew he was getting letters from his brother, but didn't take them serious. So, why not? Now, Mom, love her heart, just knew this was a bad idea. And tried to convince Tom not to move Troy in with him. But Troy thought it was a great idea. Thought it was maybe a change that Troy needed. That maybe some one-on-one time with his big brother could help. So, Troy moved to Hollywood. And moved in with Tom. Okay. Tom had the plan to give him a good life. And maybe help him achieve that good life. So, Tom says Troy was adapting and it seemed to be doing well. Except for he wouldn't get a job. Okay? He had no intention of going down there to work. I mean, he'd been babied and taken care of his whole life. Sorry. So they couldn't find him a job. And Tom pulled some strings and got him a job at the CBS studio as a security guard. Okay? And Tom thought everything was great. You know? Thought, got him a job, he's working, and he's adapting, and life is nothing but a dream. Sorry, that song just played through my head as I was saying that. Life is but a dream. Anyways, until one day when Tom decided, nah, I'm not going to work. This doesn't work for me. Sorry, bro, I am not going to spend all my days working. So they get into an argument, of course. But in the end, Troy would not go to work. So, of course, Tom was not happy. He had pulled strings. He had done everything he could to get his brother a job. And now he's not going and it's going to make him look bad. But that was that. Tom thought, you know what? I'm just going to let him work around the house. We'll just let him stay at home and do nothing and just, do things around the house. That works. And it did. It seemed to work out okay. Until I got the wrong powder. So Troy was a smoker. Okay? And Tom really didn't say much about that, whether he agreed or not. But he said, I told him I didn't want him smoking in the house. Fair. Okay? That is fair. And especially in that time period when smoking was so popular. Everybody was smoking. But Troy refused to smoke outside as he had been asked. And again, another big fight. So, and they were having fights, but it was a lot about things like that, you know. So, one day, enter the other brother. So, in the family, there's 3 boys and 1 girl. And he decided he wanted to give Hollywood a try and make it big. So, Tom moved him as well to their house. So now they got 3 brothers living together. 2 of them, one is working in Hollywood. The other one wants to try to work in Hollywood, and the other one's doing absolutely nothing. So, where's it at? Tom, the other brother's name is Greg. So Tom tells of a time where Greg was in the bathroom and apparently Troy needed to go. Sorry, complete blank. Troy needed to go to the bathroom and wouldn't wait for him. So he decided, you know, to go to the front door, on the front porch, and pee on the door. Well, in a sentence that probably makes sense to everybody, Tom got mad. And in the process, slammed the door on Troy and wouldn't let him back in the house. Because, you know, Troy went out to pee. It's not like he had his keys or anything. And he fought. He tried to get in. He tried to break down the door. He tried to do everything to get in the door. And couldn't. And Tom's like, you know, I just wanted him to go away for a day or 2. I just needed him to go somewhere else and come back and realize he's got it made and apologize and try to do better. In the process, Troy threatens Tom when he won't let him back in and tells him, where's that? That if he doesn't let him in, he can use his taekwondo moves, rip his heart out in 6 seconds flat, show it to him before he dies. Tom thought he was funny. Because, yeah, that's what you do when someone threatens your life multiple times. But he never let him in. He was hoping that Troy would go somewhere, think about it, and come back, and everything would be great. However, Troy calls his mom, who comes in from Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is where they were from. And it was the first time we heard that where he was from or anything other than when Tom moved to L.A. So they are from Wisconsin. And she flew to L.A. and picked up Troy and took him home. And then I guess in the scheme of things, it could have been worse. So Troy goes back home. Now, obviously things kind of get worse. And Troy gets a lot more erratic. And Mama becomes scared. So only a few months after he returns back from L.A., Mama goes and files a police report. So she's terrified that he is going to kill somebody. So, and she tells a story, or not a story, but in this police report, she writes down this incident, and Tom reads this incident to us, where Troy actually attacked his mom, strangled her with a sock, and told her it would be easy to kill her. Like, it would be so easy just to kill you now, get it done, that he wants to kill somebody because he wants to know how it feels. That's a lot of... I kind of went really overboard on the... But hey. And he wants to know how it feels because he thinks he would enjoy it. Okay. Okay. And then after his attack on his mom, he packs a bag and steals her car again. Okay. So she tried to call the police immediately after this has happened, but in his... He knew what he was doing. So he cut all the cords to the phones. So she couldn't call anybody. And remember, this is before cell phones. So house lines are pretty much it. He's cut all the cords. She can't get out. And then he ties the door so she can't get out the door. I'm not really sure how he does it, but he tied all the doors shut. Eventually she escapes. And it doesn't say how she escapes, but she escapes, goes to a neighbor, calls the cops. Okay? She files this report. And the cops found Troy 6 hours later with a lot of weird things in his bag. Let me list what they were. Oops. A nutcracker. A metal skewer. Handsaw, and a dissecting kit. Just name a few things. And Tom says that those were very consistent with the pictures and stuff that Troy had been sending Tom on how he was going to die. So apparently that was his kit to kill Tom. Tom says he thinks his mom saved his life. And actually, he's pretty sure she did save his life. And after he was caught, he was sent to a halfway house to live. So, on July 14th, 1989, Tom receives a call from his sister. And she told him, and I quote, "He did it. He killed her," end quote. Tom said he tried to figure out who and what his sister was talking about, because at no point did it ever dawn on him, Troy. And his sister tells him Troy has killed their mother. Okay. So Tom, of course, in complete denial, has a hard time believing this happened. There's no way Tom or Troy could do this. He was at a halfway house, right? How is it possible he got out to kill anybody? Or he was out and about to kill anybody? I guess halfway houses aren't like jail. You can come and go. I really don't know. But Troy had called one of their cousins to pick him up and take him to his mom's home because he wanted to see his mom. The cousin does, not knowing what was going on and any of the situation. Honestly, keeping it a secret cost the mother her life. So the cousin went, picked him up, and took him and dropped him off at the house that his mom lived in. And then the next day, the cousin and the grandfather shows up at the house and finds Mom dead in the kitchen. She had been beaten to death with a baseball bat. I'm sure Troy honestly just used whatever he could find because all his kits were pretty much gone. Anyways, he had beat her head in, says baseball bat 4 times, and her head was in pieces. So Tom talks about his mother at this point and says that she was very loved by everybody. And he's going through all the emotions at this point. You know, from anger at Troy to devastation, losing his mom. I mean, there's just so much he's going through on this, and you get it. You understand it. And he's just still, says that at this time he's still trying to figure out why it happened. What did Troy do, and why did Troy do it? But after Troy killed his mother, I don't mean to laugh. Let me get myself here. Calls the police. Troy does. Tells them he is Tom. He had just killed his mother and sexually abused his baby brother, Troy. Hello? Plot twist. Did you see that one coming? I didn't. I literally had to pause the show, rewind it, and listen to it again because I was like, I was not expecting that. At all. But it also told me the frame of mind that Troy was in. It wasn't a rage. It wasn't, I don't know if it was planned or not, but he had the sense of mind to call the police, tell them he was somebody else, and throw in some sexual assault in it. So the sister is telling Tom, because this is all in the same conversation, that the cops think Troy was on his way to Los Angeles, and Tom was next. So apparently the cops never believed Tom's story. The cops never believed Troy's story. I apologize. And that was really the last that it was mentioned that he did that. And I'm still going, please explain to me. But that's okay. So the cops try to tell Tom he needs to go somewhere. He does not need to stay at the house. Troy was coming after him, and he was in serious danger. Now, from what I could tell, Tom doesn't leave his house. But he is quite paranoid that something's going to happen. And that Troy was coming for him. So he didn't sleep. He stayed vigilant. He even went to his neighbors, which I got to say would completely freak me out as a neighbor. But I would do it for him. And told them that, or asked them to keep an extra eye on his house, that if they saw anything suspicious or weird, that they should call the cops immediately. Well, apparently nothing happened. And then when they were planning Mom's funeral, they kept hearing that he was going to show up, Troy was going to show up at the funeral and murder everybody that was there. So, there were extra cops at the funeral. The siblings all had bodyguards. And in preparation, because they were going to take this threat serious, finally. Troy was off his rocker. And again, I don't mean to make that joke of that. I really don't. This is quite serious. So, okay, where's it at? They eventually find Troy in Texas, where he was arrested for car theft. And this is where they were fingerprinting him and found out that he was wanted for the death of his mother. And I just kind of got the whole fingerprint thing wrong, but this is when he was fingerprinted. So Troy was sentenced to life in prison for murdering his mother, Phyllis. It's the first time we hear Phyllis's name. Her name was Phyllis Beards. And Tom tells us that life in prison means 50 years without the possibility of parole. I guess in Wisconsin, that's what that means. To me, you say life in prison, the dude should be life in prison. No ifs, ands, or buts. But Tom says Troy will be 69 before he can be considered for parole. Now, 69 is not too young or too old to still murder. However, that's how old he'll be when he can get parole. And that doesn't mean he'll get out. Just means when he can be paroled. Okay. Now, Tom says the siblings at this point wash their hands, completely are done with Troy. Do you blame them? I don't blame them. I truly don't blame them. However, Tom says at this point, he gets a call from one of his exes and says his mother is coming to her in dreams and wants Tom to go see Troy. Now, whether or not I believe in psychic abilities or whatever is not the point here. The point is, there's another plot twist. I wasn't expecting this guy to say his ex was having dreams of his mother and she wants him to go visit. I really wasn't. I don't know why. Why not? Why not? Anyways, here we are. Tom tells us that after his mother died, he actually consulted numerous psychics trying to reach her. And apparently dated the one because she's his ex and called to tell him that mom wanted him to go see Troy. So he said he went to see her because that's what his mom wanted. And when he went there, he expected to meet with Troy behind, where they had this glass divider between them. Like the movies. You're on that side, I'm on this side. You can't get to me. I can say whatever I want and you can't touch me. He said, however, that was not the case at all. He said it was an open seating area and he's literally sitting next to his brother who murdered his mom and had threatened him numerous times. He said he thought about leaving, but he didn't. He was scared because there was no reason, nothing holding Troy back. At this point, he had nothing to lose. But his mom wanted to be there. Okay. Tom says there was no aggression from Troy at all. No violence in his behavior. That at this point, he was just his little brother. And Tom started feeling obligated to be there for him. He wanted to be brothers again. And he was hoping that Troy would be remorseful and they can rebuild this relationship they had. Tom said it took him a long, long time to forgive his brother. And this is where I'm confused. At the beginning of the episode, you remember me talking about Troy and Tom being on a video that right after, I got stuff all over my teeth, that right after Troy was arrested, him and Tom were together and Troy was saying he didn't do it. If he had, he would have tried to get away with it. And he doesn't, he was innocent. And Tom was in this video supporting him. Well, there's a few things that's very confusing to me. For one, he did try to get away with it. He called and tried to blame his brother. For two, the siblings had nothing to do with Tom or Troy right after the murder. And why would he have been in a video supporting him? I don't know, and I don't think I ever got an answer to that. So, anyways, some conflicting things going on here, right? But for now, after his conviction, after he's been in jail, Troy and Tom are together, brother and siblings, and Tom is trying to make it work, right? He's just wanting Tom or Troy to admit what he did, and he does finally. He finally admits it, too, which at this point, again, he said he didn't do it. Now he's admitting he did do it. and he's admitting he did it with Tom. It's just confusing. It's confusing. Anyways, Troy finally does admit what he did. And he kept saying, though, that he thought it was all a dream. That, it couldn't have really been. He never really thought it was real. Tom said that he wanted an apology that he never got. I'm thinking, I wouldn't have expected that. So they slowly start to rebuild the relationship and try to help each other out. Tom left Hollywood after this. He decided he needed to make peace with what happened, make peace with himself, get away from the limelight. He was apparently kind of the it boy for the Young and the Restless at that time, and he walked away from it all. He took up painting, and it shows some paintings that he did, and it was kind of his outlet. It was his method to deal through things. It was his therapy. Excuse me. And he also states that the siblings never could understand why he forgave Troy and got back in his life. So the other two siblings still have nothing to do with Troy. And it kind of ends there. And that's done. So, in typical fashion, I get on the computer, start doing some DuckDuckGo and looking to find what I can find, and try to fill in some blanks. Most of the blanks I had were timing issues. But, yeah, there's a few things here that I found out that we didn't know. But for the most part, this story was pretty complete. So, Cinemaholic.com. I use this one quite often. Dated March 24th, 2022. So this article I'm reading is not that long ago. The article is titled, Phyllis Beard's Murder. Where are Troy Beards and Tom Beards now? So Phyllis, a little bit about Phyllis. The mother, she married Tom Beards, I guess senior, who dreamed of becoming an actor, but instead settled as a psychotherapist. They had 3 sons and 1 daughter. And when Troy was 4, that's when Mom and Dad moved out. And Phyllis became the sole breadwinner. She made ends meet for these kids with 2 jobs. It was her father, Phyllis's father and nephew, that showed up at her house to help her do with some electrical work that she was needing done when they found her dead. Phyllis was 49 years old. I'm going to be 49 in less than a month. That's just tragic. So young. So young. And she had been brutally beaten with a baseball bat. So the blood splatter was everywhere, all over the walls and the ceiling. So it mentions Troy's challenging childhood. He was regularly suspended from school. He abused drugs, threatened to kill himself often. And those things were kind of left out. Like there was no drug use or threatening to kill himself. But it says at 16, he stole his mom's car and drove to Florida, where he crashed it. Now, I remember part of this story with the stolen cars. And he went and headed to Florida. But at 18, and I'll get to that. I'll get back to that. So at 18... he stole the car again. Did the same thing. Except for this time he led the police on a high-speed chase. Doesn't tell us where they finally get him at. So maybe that one was the Illinois that they told us. Because in the story they tell us that he was in Illinois when he crashed the car. He was on his way to get Troy. They never mentioned Florida. And honestly, they never mentioned a high-speed chase. So I don't know. But it's interesting. That's a little difference going on. Troy was admitted to a psych ward where he threatened to kill a nurse if she didn't help him escape. And nothing else is mentioned. So I don't know. Did she try to help him? Did she get security? I don't know. Kind of a lot of open-end questions too. So it talks about how Troy often talked about killing his brother Tom. And that he wanted to know how it felt to kill somebody. This was mentioned. Phyllis took him to several doctors. All of them believed he was faking his psychotic episodes and symptoms. I have to question where the hell the dad was. So first of all, Dad is a psychotherapist. It's what he does. He talks to people and tries to find out their problem and helps them. And where is he when his son needs him? Did he literally just get divorced and think, okay, I don't have a family, I don't have kids, I can do whatever the hell I want? Because that's kind of what it sounds like. And I'm going to pull it back because it's a little rough topic for me, but it's, yeah, where the hell was Dad? Mom had 2 jobs raising 4 kids, and until this sentence, Dad's not mentioned again. So many questions. Where is Daddy dearest? Anyways, so eventually Troy was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Did I say that right? Schizophrenia. I knew I didn't say it right. Paranoid schizophrenia. But at this point, it's too late. He was diagnosed with that after the fact of everything else. One of Troy's friends says that Troy wanted to buy a gun to, quote, kill his mother, unquote. And as we heard throughout the story, he didn't take him serious. Nah, he didn't believe a word he said. That wasn't what he meant. However, he was smart enough not to get him a gun. So Troy was sentenced to life in prison in November 1989. He remains at the Columbia Correctional Institute in Portage, Wisconsin. He is eligible, I can't talk right now, eligible for parole in 2039. He was 19 years old when he killed his mother. So everything else I read, because I always try to skip through other pages, but they were all pretty much a recap of what we saw in Evil Lives Here, or the pieces that I'm missing here. Nothing could be explained about Daddy. Nothing could be explained about some of these questions. It just wasn't there. Maybe they just don't have the answer. Maybe they just never talked about the answer. I didn't find anything else about the sister or the other brother, Greg. And as you know, if you've watched these with me, they deserve their privacy, they deserve their peace, and that's what they're getting from me. So I did not dig into their life. That it wasn't mentioned, nowhere was it public knowledge. I don't even know the sister's name, and that's fine. So, that is the story, and this is probably the first one that I've had some serious plot twists that kind of wasn't expecting that. So, let me know what you think, okay? Excuse me. Love to hear the comments that you have. Leave them down below. I'm sorry. Leave them down below. You can private message me. You can email me. You can do whatever you want. I am here for you. Let me know what you think. Let me know your comments. Don't forget to hit that like button. Please subscribe. And until next time, guys, goodbye.